Okay, thank you, Søren. I think the first thing we're going to do is we're all going to stand up. Because we're all going to sing the Internet of Things Anthem. Okay? It's, you know the song, it's Paul McCartney, Let It Be, but instead of it's Let It Be, it's going to be IoT. So I rely on you to go with me on this one. You know, I'm feeling pretty uncomfortable right now. So you ready? So I stole this from a workshop that we did at CBS some time back. It was actually a few coincidences coming together. Somebody said we should do a workshop, another guy said we should have a song. Then somebody came up with this song, and in the middle of a song somebody suddenly blurred out, instead of Let It Be, IoT. And since then we call this the Internet of Things Anthem. So thank you for participating. If you did hear me, you probably would have guessed that I don't make a living singing. I could try, but I think I would fail. So instead, I'm a researcher at the Alexandra Institute, and my main field is the Internet of Things. And I'll be talking to you about the Internet of Things very broadly. I hope I'll bring it down back to sort of the developer level in the end, although I wouldn't call myself a developer directly. This is mainly done by my colleague that sits over there in the corner, Lasse Vestergaard. So he needs to take a lot of the credit. So if I mess it up, it's his fault. Okay, so let me get started. And just a word of warning, I use these sessions as trying to sort out what's going in my mind as well. So I don't have a pre-planned presentation as such. I just sort of go along and try to get actually my mind sorted. So if I change my mind occasionally on what I say, then you just have to excuse me. So I want to start off with the 19th century. And I think the 19th century we should sort of classify as a century of hysteria. It's a century where a lot of stuff happened. You know, in 1800, the biggest city on the planet was 1 million people. In 1899, it was 6.7 million. So there was a massive urbanization happening. And this urbanization happened because of different technologies that have sort of appeared. And one of them is, for instance, the train, the car, but also sort of infrastructures in there. So we went through a massive sort of change in things, and society sort of prepared itself for the modern ages, you could say. Industrialization, one of them, and with that coming education. You know, being taught the basics of reading, writing, and maths. And if we sort of extrapolate that a little bit, you know, we always added a little bit to our education. And what's the bit that we're going to add now? And that's probably programming. So if we move on through the centuries, we get to the 20th century, and that's probably the century of depression. Luckily, we sort of left that behind us, 2 great wars or world wars, and the nuclear bomb exploding, and or hydrogen bomb exploding, and several other things happening. You know, the only savior that we had was the 80s, and that was sort of destroyed for the Germans by David Hasselhoff. But you know, it was kind of depressing. You know, we weren't quite ready to go for the next step. It was only sort of towards the end of it, sort of the 80s, and then coming to the 90s, where we started getting the internet and really telecommunications, where we suddenly had the ability not just to broadcast, you know, one programming to everybody, and everybody could listen to it, or the telephone, where I picked up the receiver and talked to from one end to the other end, one person to one person. Suddenly we had many-to-many communications through the internet, and that was at the end of the 20th century. My beard scratching. And then, we're coming now to the 21st century, and we're not quite sure what it's going to be. There's a lot of time still to the end of that century, but at the moment it's a sort of this obsessive compulsive behavior. So Krista Lopez already talked about her being obsessive compulsive about programming these snippets of code. And I think it characterizes us quite a lot. I mean, 10 years ago I didn't have the need to go back to my front door and wiggle the handle 10 times. And if I now say, have you locked your front door? You might think, maybe not. But it's sort of this century where we start maybe having this information overload, capability overload. What should we do next? There's so many opportunities. So maybe we have to rein ourselves in, or we get these little whispers of wisdom. And for me, these whispering words of wisdom is, the Internet of Things. It's this massive topic. It's these great 3 words strung together into this beautiful sentence, let's say. And I mean, the most beautiful definition is actually in these foreign characters to us by Wen Jiabao, which is the Internet plus the Internet of Things is the wisdom of the earth. So this is for me a definition thing. That's how I can describe sort of the notion of it. It's very philosophical, you could say. But you shouldn't solve it for anything else but that equation. It doesn't make any sense if you take the Internet of Things and wisdom minus, well, maybe you could get sort of a notion of how big the Internet of Things is if you do that, because if you just take the Internet as such, it doesn't really resemble any wisdom of the world. Google is kind of the interface to many answers to your questions that you have, but it usually comes back with not necessarily exactly what you wanted. So there's still a lot of lack there. So the Internet of Things is a big term, and this is also why I called my talk that we shouldn't be religious about it, because we always go around in the research community, and then when we pass it on to the standardization community, that we need a definition. And I've been working on the topic of the Internet of Things since 2002, and I think every sort of 3 months somebody comes up with a new definition and tries to push it through the community. Usually they come from the outside, and then they just get it out. And they go out with a definition, and then 3 months later somebody else comes in with a new definition. And the latest one is actually by Rand, and there's also one beforehand which is quite interesting by the IRC, but I like this. This is very poetic. But let's explore it a little bit further and just ask ourselves some questions about it. So, good night lamp. Who knows good night lamp? 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably a few more. Maybe a little bit lazy after doing all the singing. But good night lamp in principle is from the maker community. It's a community of people that suddenly have the ability to make stuff because they get given the tools to do so. On one side is, of course, the programming, in particular the embedded programming side, but it's also the hardware devices that come with it. So you have, for instance, an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi or something. You can try out things a lot more fluently, and you have a lot of communities around contributing with code, so you can try out stuff. But it's still sitting down at a workbench and soldering stuff. So Alex DS, who is behind the Good Night lamp, which unfortunately didn't get funded on Kickstarter, made these beautiful lamps, which is a master lamp and then a number of children lamps. And if you turn on the master lamp, the children turn on, and if you turn off the master lamp, they turn off. So the idea is that you have a degree of connectedness between people, and it becomes a gadget in the house. Interesting, not interesting, cool design, anybody's cup of tea or not. Grundfos Go. Pumps. Pumps or any other sort of piece of pretty heavy engineering or light engineering, whatever you want to call it. The new wave of that is to stick on some ICT, some information communication technologies, and voila, you have this brand new, fantastic product. So you give just a new interface to it. Great step in the right direction. contributing to the Internet of Things? Hilti. Business model of Hilti. Does that ring a bell? They changed their business model from actually selling the products into offering them as services or renting them out. A great driver for, or a great way of looking at how we can innovate in this space. So what do all of those things have in common? I've already given it away several times. Anyone? So they're all just instantiations of the Internet of Things in one way or another. So you can sort of justify your own definition by just picking up one of those and saying it's just an instantiation of the Internet of Things. But is it really? Is it really that? Because if you look at each single one of those, let's say almost products or instantiations of the Internet of Things, they all sort of work in this walled garden approach. You have this product and you make some money out of the product, or you make some more money out of the product, and you kind of leave everybody around that sort of hanging. You still haven't built an interface to that particular product that you're making. You just make a product. So you have a problem and you make a solution to it. And we're very, very good at that. We've done that for many years. So the Internet of Things has been around for many years already, if we take that as a definition. And most recently, I've been involved in projects that make an intelligent waste, public waste basket that measures fill levels of it and then issues a route planning for the people that need to pick up the trash. Then you have the adaptive street lighting that is depending on presence of people, it turns itself up or turns itself down. But these are all expert systems where the application or the service is directly connected to this technology A, B, or C, whichever is your flavor, what you prefer to work on, what is happening next. And we know that this is where the value lies at the moment for a business model. It is to solve a problem. Somebody has a pain, you solve the pain. The pain never says, we want to have a system that encompasses everything and so on. We're slightly moving towards it, but it's not quite there yet. And I'm getting to the point of my talk in a minute. It's going through 2 more slides, I think. So how I think about the Internet of Things is about problem spaces and solution spaces and trying to combine those two together. So rather than thinking in these vertical silos, in these stacks and building these applications on top of technology, I think of it as platforms. So you have an applications and services market, let's say, that is supported by a set of technologies that build up a platform. And in the middle, there sits your your value, the untapped value. So the value at the beginning was that every bit of technology that produces a bit of data or a capability, let's say, and then serves an application and service, you stack them next to each other. It's just the sum of them. But now, when you think about platforms, the theory is that the value is bigger than the sum of its pieces. And if somebody can prove that value, I think they crack the problem. So the way that we're approaching it now from a theory perspective is actually that we put 2 ideas on collision course. One idea is the Internet of Things, so embedded systems, sensors, giving the capability of measuring stuff and interacting with the real world to us. And the other part is open data. So we open up this capability to pretty much everyone. You can also do it in a closed system, of course, and sell it somewhere, but we can do it to everyone. This gives you tremendous capabilities of actually having problems solved by many people. And what's interesting is actually that GOTO runs on the principle of the verticals at the moment. So we have an open data e-governance track in parallel to the Internet of Things track. We don't mix these communities. You need to make a choice. Are you more interested in open data, or are you more interested in embedded systems? Or do you want to listen to the funny German, or whoever's on the other side? I don't know. So, but just to get you a little bit motivated now on the let's say open data side of things. In Aarhus here, we have a few months back now launched the Open Data Aarhus portal, which now has a whopping 53 datasets on it. Most of these datasets are PDF files, or an Excel file, or a document of any sorts. It's not crazy stuff, but it's it's a starting point. We're putting stuff out there, and LESS is also involved in that, by the way, and it's also supported by something called Made with Aarhus, which is the label of the Smart Aarhus initiative. And what's more interesting is it's also built on CCAN and Drupal. CCAN is an open source software supported by the Open Knowledge Foundation, and it's actually run by about 40 or so cities now worldwide. It's been adopted by the Obama administration for their open data platform, as well as the European Commission. And it's sort of a growing open source use of this platform community that contributes itself back into it. But I mean, what can you do with it? So you have these data sets, or maybe you have an API if you're lucky, where you actually can directly access some data. What can you do with it? So just to run you through some examples of how people think about this. And I'll try and turn it back into the Internet of Things in a while. So this is an example of what people do with data that sort of becomes public. This is, who knows this? Anybody? Okay, then I explain it. You know it, it's okay. This is art by Eric Fisher. Eric Fisher is an artist who got the skill of actually programming or doing some basic scripting and visualization of data. And he used those skills to tap into the Flickr API and then extract the picture geographical data of the pictures that were uploaded there, as well as the profile who uploaded them. Then he categorized them into two groups. Red is tourists, and blue points are locals. And then he created some rules, like if those points were taken 10 minutes apart, then you would draw a line, and then did a bit of artistic interpretation, and he comes up with these beautiful maps. And this, for instance, is Barcelona. And then the quote up there is, now we know where our tourists go, so we know where we can clean up our roads. So this is some use of sort of data that is openly available. Twitter. People are doing a lot of stuff with the social media side of things. This is a map of languages spoken in London, as the title says. And the different, well, you can actually read it, Spanish, French, Turkish, I think, Arabic. So you can see some sort of ideas about this, what's happening there. It's a great source of data. But they're still not, these data are not on these open data platforms. You still need to have some permissions or some ideas how to use it and work with it. We also here in Aarhus, from the Alexandra Institute, tried a little bit trying out what can we actually get right now in terms of data that is out there. And it wasn't an awful lot, but if you package it visually attractively, then you can do some interesting things. Last one I want to show is actually one of the more interesting ones. And I'll show you this one actually live, because I think that sort of corresponds what I understand as the Internet of Things and open data quite well. Not my laptop. Can I just use Safari? Am I connected? Okay. Okay. I had it all bookmarked, so I can't show you this one. So we go to the next slide. But it's very beautiful. It's an animation of it, so you can just Google it and you'll find it, no problem. But each of those dots is moving and is in real time showing the tube, the places where the trains are. And it's through Transport for London API that this is enabled, and then some artistic interpretation of it. So coming back to this, so open data is a nice way of actually then saying, okay, work with my data. But the platform was created for documents to start off with. Publishing Excel sheets, publishing PDFs, publishing some sort of document. So this is where we thought, we have a great opportunity as a team. This is GateSense. This is powered by by Grundfos, and then Trifork and Alexandra are both partners in this project. And we started up and saying, okay, we want to build an Internet of Things platform, just see how it sort of works and explore from that. But we sort of quickly came to the conclusion that maybe it's a great idea to only look at the data. So we leave all the device management side out of the picture for now. We just want to look at the data. So why not merge or fuse the idea of having all of the sensor information, all of the capabilities from the real world over an open data platform? And this is where we came to mixing the open data ideas with the Internet of Things ideas. So, is it that simple? Yes, it is. And I think I'm going to invite you now to get your mobile phones out. So, all your mobile phones. So if this doesn't work, it's your fault. And I would like you to access this URL. I'll go back to it. Sorry. That was too quick for you, I think. So I want you to go to this URL. And you should see sort of 3 numbers flickering in the top left corner, and then a line saying success below it. You would, Ulf, you were talking about user-friendliness and stuff. Yeah, this is not very user-friendly. Your fault. We're working on it. So you now my sensors, my real-time data. And here I can see, hopefully, how many people are joining. There should be more people. At the moment there's 3. Just refresh. Press refresh. Three. Sorry. Okay, let's see if we have a few more. Okay, so we have a few more. So these dots are just people joining. It doesn't work over the Wi-Fi. Forgot to say that one. Sorry, guys. So let's go back to this part and then explain how this actually works. So it's easier when it's your own laptop. How do I click on this stuff? Okay, I can hear. Very good. So this is just the accelerometer data, and that doesn't work either now. Oh, come on. Bless it. Okay. I can't demo it. So Lasse, come fix it. Okay, it doesn't work. So let's move on to something else. What I can show is actually that this is very embarrassing. I'll try to prove a point here. What I can actually show is that the data actually gets stored onto a CCAN instance. So we're generating real data at the moment onto the open data platform. The whole point was that you could actually see it in near real time when you then when we collectively move our mobile phones. You could see just a curve changing. So if we would all hold it still and then move it, you could see it in 1 second delay that this was working. Nothing, you know, it's nothing too fancy in that context. So we, since we started it, when I tested it early on, it was 10,000 records. So since we started it, 6,000 records got included onto this list. And but the whole point was that you showed that you can actually take real-time data over a platform that was created for documents quite easily. And the whole idea is that this isn't competing with some specialized platform for this purpose. It's competing on a completely different level. to actually open up the capability to everybody to interact on that level. So putting data sources in, like for instance a mobile phone or a sensor for that matter, is as easy as taking the data out again and using it for another purpose. So I think I need to come back if I'm invited for GOTO next year to show the polished version of it. Sorry about the shame it didn't work. Okay, but in principle what it was is then that we can take the mobile data and display it as a graph. Nothing too fancy. But we have a vision in the GateSense project as it is. And the idea is that we actually, for a start, just thinking about the data plane. So what can we do just by looking at the possibilities of exposing data over this platform and getting as many people involved and just offering up their data if they would like to. So we're talking to a lot of smaller companies, we're talking to a lot of cities, how they would like to expose their data and put it up onto this platform, and us then having a group or a set of developers around this to actually make some interesting applications and services out of that. So we had the proof of concept that I wanted to show you. So the next step would be actually to create a toolbox that allows a larger group of people to interact with this. So code snippets, how to, for instance, extract. So you make it work. Okay, we show it after I'm finished. Then we try it again, one more time. So a toolbox that allows you then to take code snippets and write your own applications and services, also to find out if you have a sensor, how you can easily plug it into a platform like this and make your own records. And at a much later stage, we would then look at this bottom layer, the IoT platform that actually does the device level management, where you can reprogram a device, look at the security of it, or check its availability, and so on. We don't worry about that at the moment. So I think I'm getting to the end now. So this is now the shameless advertising part. So GateSense, we're hiring. We're looking for some people to join us. So if you would like to join, then you can talk to me or Sead over there or Lasse. And then we have also a lot of different other activities. I'm also launching the Internet of Things comic book at this conference. So it's a little book that is targeting actually sort of CEOs of companies and policymakers to get an understanding about the technology. It's very broad. Got some sort of illustrations about application scenarios, but also a number of very interesting interviews from different researchers in the field to give their perspective on what this technology or what this suite and philosophy of technologies will be doing to the world. And I think with that, we're going to try the demo one more time. Lasse, do you want to come down? We just hook up your laptop. Yes? Okay, I can elaborate on the business model of the Internet of Things.
Or maybe answer a question.
Okay, good. You have questions? So I only answer questions about the font size and the font. Anything technical goes to Lasse.
That's okay. What about security on machine-to-machine communication on IoT?
Yeah. It's a good question. So if you want end-to-end security, you want to be on the IoT platform side. So you want to be either in the Etsy M2M TC community to defining this, or you want to be in the IPSO Alliance talking about IP, end-to-end IP, so you can run any security mechanisms over the IP side of things. So. Yeah. But for GateSense, at the moment, we don't worry about that part. This is an exploration about the possibilities that we can have in changing the business models for companies like Grundfos or Bosch, to look at how to transform a company from out of the box into a service company. Okay. There we go. We can see a graph. I love that. So it's very smooth. So, okay. We actually called the website throwable data because the original idea was that we all throw our phones, but I don't know how much. So you can see that there's a slight delay with the data that you get there, and I think we need to all do it together, so it's productive in terms of this. So if we all hold it away from us and then turn it right, it might work. But so it's not the amazing thing that this is sort of near real time and not very good. The amazing thing is it runs over a platform that was designed for documents. So trying to combine two technologies. And I think that's the end of my talk. So
Yes.
and thank you, Lasse.